fought in the enchanting forests of Augusta National Park, Georgia, in the United States. It's played in picture-perfect settings. Driving up Magnolia Lane, you're met by a grand old clubhouse, which is the gateway to golfing heaven. They say it's perfect. They say it's where God himself hangs out. It could be the Garden of Eden. The fairways are impeccable, the surroundings are idyllic, the trees and flowers as rare as they are stunning. It oozes class. The breeze whispers the tales of legends into your ear. The crowd's cheers echo through the trees. It has history at every turn. Mark Twain is said to have described golf as a good walk spoiled, but he died before Augusta National Golf Club was formed. He doesn't know what he's missed. The best contends with the best on one of the hardest golf courses in the world. If you win it, you really have earned the right to be considered one of the masters of the game. This is the Sporting Almanac.
Hi, Ben.
Hi, Jack.
How are you?
Yeah, I'm all right, thanks, mate. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad. We're just recording this just after the running of the Grand National.
Mm-hmm.
It was won by Nick Rocket at 33-1, which, incredibly, I did actually bet on him this year.
I didn't.
Well, you know, at least one of us knows what they're doing. Completely not just random luck. Unfortunately, yeah, it's another race not without controversy. There's a couple of horses. One horse pulled up, one horse fell. Both horses made their way to the horse ambulance, which I only discovered today was a thing.
A good thing.
Yes, very good thing. Both made it into the ambulance on their feet, so fingers crossed, and there'll be no lasting damage from that. But across the meet, there has been horse deaths again, and Rachel Blackmore, who we mentioned in the last episode, had a bad fall on the first day of the meet. Her horse, unfortunately, lost its life, and she had to be taken away for checks as well. So just another reminder, it is a dangerous sport, and this year is no exception.
Yeah. Well, thanks for getting us off to such a positive, happy start, Jack.
It's all uphill from here.
Well, the race itself, though, the Mullins National.
The Mullins National, yeah, absolutely. First, second, and third, all trained by Willie Mullins, and I think fifth as well. Incredible.
And his son was riding the winner.
Yeah, and his son was riding the winner, Patrick Mullins, as an amateur.
Mm-hmm. I was just going to say, before we get on to this week's episode, anything else going on this week that we should cover before we start?
There's a couple of things. It's not the busiest weekend of sport ever. The Women's Six Nations continues this weekend. Round 3 of that is coming up this weekend.
Go on the Red Roses.
Go on the Red Roses, indeed. Anything else, Ben?
Bahrain Grand Prix.
Oh, the Bahrain Grand Prix.
Yes. Round 4 of this year's season.
Round 4 already. Yeah, coming thick and fast. Coming out of episode 1, there is one or two things I think we should mention because I don't know if you're aware of this, Ben, but we made one or two small errors in the first episode. We mentioned a few times it was the 176th running of the Grand National, when in fact it was the 177th running.
Ah, there we are.
Don't know if you know that.
Can't do maths.
We've corrected ourselves now, and it's my job to fact check, so I hold my hands up and apologise for that. In addition, unfortunately, as good a story as it was, Easter Hero was not the runner-up in the 1928 National. He took out the entire group, somewhere between 20 and 35 other runners, and also himself. But one of the other horses did fall, get up again, and finish. That was Billy Barton, who was an American horse, I believe, ridden by Tommy Cullinan. So there you go.
Oh, nice.
We have corrected ourselves, and we are back in the game. So, you already introduced it, but do you want to go again? Where are we this week, Ben?
We're at the Masters this week, Jack.
Oh, I can't wait. It's the best. It is the best tournament in golf. It is the best setting in golf. I am going to Georgia. I don't know if you know this. I think I'm going to Georgia later this year. I'm certainly going to the Deep South. or the south generally. So I don't know if I'll have time or the credit with the people I'm travelling with to pop in there. And more than that, I don't actually know if they allow guests, unless you're a member, but I'm sure swinging by and have a look from the outside if I get the chance. But it's a big state and a big country, so might not get the opportunity.
That would be unreal, though. Even just
it would be unreal.
Have a look around, a little tour or something.
Get thrown out if I sneak in. That would be an absolute honour. Anyway, would you like to tell us about the Masters tournament and about Augusta National?
Yes, I would be very happy to. I know that you probably know some of this already, but for those who are less familiar with either the game of golf or the tournament itself, it was founded by the amateur golf champion, Bobby Jones, and an investment banker, Clifford Roberts, and they set up the Augusta National Golf Club, which is the host, essentially, to the Masters. And the tournament is pretty unique in that it's the only major tournament conducted by a private club rather than a national golfing organisation like the PGA. And it's been held since 1934. And it's been played every single year except 1943 because of World War II, good excuse. 1944, World War II, good excuse. 1945, World War II, good excuse.
Very solid excuses.
But it did prevail during COVID. It was delayed and it was played at the end of the year outside of its usual calendar slot. At the back end of the year, it actually was the last major in 2020. But it was played. But yeah, I mean, the purse back in 1934, I think the winner earned $1,500, and now it's $3.6 million. So it's done okay. And it was originally called the Augusta National Invitation Tournament. And this is quite a fun story, actually. There was a debate whether to call it the Masters or the Augusta National Invitation Tournament, which really rolls off the tongue. Bobby Jones thought it was a bit presumptuous to call it the Masters, but the press got wind of it, and they ran a story referring to it as the Masters, and it obviously stuck, and has henceforth been known. But it was officially titled the Masters in 1939, I think. So there were a couple of iterations of the tournament under its original name. But yeah, I mean, the Masters is the Masters. And there's a lot that we can talk about on this subject, but it's the first of golf's 4 major championships and the only one that's played at the same venue, possibly the most iconic sporting venue in the game of golf.
Oh, that's debatable.
Apart from
Scottish people disagreeing with you there.
Exactly. Well, you've preempted me, mate. Other than St Andrews, probably. So yeah,
which I have been to. Not
nice.
played at, but I've been to.
I'm about to say something which anyone who is interested in golf who ends up listening to this will be astonished by and perhaps dislike me for. But I won free tickets to the 150th Open, which was at St Andrews, where Tiger was playing, and I couldn't find anyone to go with me, so I handed them back.
To be fair, that's as much on me as it is on you, because you presumably invited me to that, and I wasn't able to go. I imagine
I did, and you turned me down.
Yeah, so it's a group effort there, not to be repeated.
Yes, well, I mean, I certainly wouldn't be turning down free tickets to the Masters if I ever got them. So, lesson learned. I'd go on my own if necessary.
You and me both.
Yeah, exactly. Well, back to the tournament. 85 to 100 participants. Invitational only, which is a really interesting aspect of this tournament. It is an official money event on the PGA Tour, European Tour, I think Japanese Golf Tour as well, maybe. I don't know what it actually its official title is, but the Asia Circuit. And yeah, the invitational criteria is complex, but it essentially ensures that all the masters, weirdly, turn up at this tournament, all the best players. So all prior champions get a lifetime invite, all major winners from the previous season, all winners on the PGA Tour as long as they carry some sufficient ranking points or something. The current Olympic gold medalist, which I guess is a new addition to the criteria.
That's interesting, yeah.
The top 50 in the world, the top 30 money winners in the previous PGA Tour, which is called the FedEx Cup, for those that aren't informed. The top 12 from the last tournament. And they also have a very long-standing amateur history and invite basically all of the best amateurs from around the world through a series of amateur tournaments.
Okay.
And the top 4 players from the previous US Open, and PGA Championship. So yeah, like a pretty interesting set of criteria. There is one other way in which you can be invited, and that is through special invitations, which we'll get onto in a minute.
Yeah, it's worth pointing out with that, obviously a lot of people will fall under multiple criteria there. So obviously if you have won a major title, you are also probably in the top 30 of the rankings.
Exactly, and they do. People hit all the top 50 in the world basically hit all the criteria normally. So it's just the people outside of that. But yeah, special invitations are a fun thing. They are traditionally predominantly used to invite foreign players who don't meet the criteria for an invite. And it's at the discretion of the club. And the first to receive such an invitation was Gary Player. He was the first foreign winner of the Masters as well, being from South Africa, and a 3-time winner. Sorry, he wasn't the first to receive it. That's wrong. He wrote to the Masters asking... this is the reason why it's a fun story, because he's the first foreign winner and he got into his first Masters via a special invitation. That's what I meant to say. Before he went on to win 3 Masters. And he wrote to them requesting a special invite, and when he was granted one, he essentially crowdfunded his way to the tournament, which I think is kind of sweet given the prestige and the success that he then went on to earn. And getting all the way from South Africa to Georgia in the United States must have been no mean feat back in the day.
Yeah, back in the early 1960s, no, probably not.
But yeah, he's not the only person to of note to have received a special invitation. The first black player to receive a special invitation was a chap called Lee Elder, who was given one in 1975, which is weirdly the same year that Tiger Woods was born. And people and politicians have been lobbying for a couple of years for Elder to receive a special invite because he was a decent player in his own right. But the club resisted, not on the basis that they were obviously racist in the 1970s, but on the basis that, as they said at least, if black players were good enough, then they could qualify in their own right.
So convenient reasoning.
Well, weirdly not a barrier to inviting white players from South Africa, who had also not qualified and met the criteria. So, yeah, read into that what you will. There's an inference there. But Elder did obviously get his invite in 75, and he received an awful lot of abuse and quite an enormous amount of hate mail, I think. And he even rented 2 houses in the tournament week and moved between them so that people couldn't track his movements easily. And he didn't eat alone. He would always have someone with him. And he would eventually go on to miss the cut. But obviously his participation in the 1975 edition of the tournament was infinitely more important than his scorecard. But yeah, he, it was the start of something, and he would return 2 more times and earn 2 top 25 finishes. And he also finished his career with 4 PGA Tour wins and a Ryder Cup in 79. And he'd be the first black player as well to hit the honorary tee shot in 2021 alongside one Jack Nicklaus and Gary Player himself. So,
okay.
Yeah.
I find it incredible that was 1975. Obviously, America has a very long history of segregation, of particularly in the South, particularly in the likes of Alabama and Georgia being where this tournament takes place. But even so, 1975 is a full decade after the civil rights movement. It goes to show the white conservative nature of golf, which does persist to a certain extent to this day, although obviously has been ruptured somewhat by certain individuals and their success, one in particular in the late 90s, who I believe we will probably mention once or twice in this episode. He's already been mentioned once, Mr. Tiger Woods.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you think that's astonishing, pal, Elder's participation came 15 years before Augusta admitted the first black member. So, and that was a Ron Townsend in 1990. And I didn't know about this, but apparently there was a controversy, the Shoal Creek controversy, in the lead up to the PGA Championships in 1990. Shoal Creek being a club in Alabama, designed by Jack Nicklaus, that didn't have any black members and heavily resisted them, and were being panned in the media in the lead up to the tournament that they were hosting. And the PGA nearly removed them as the host club, for the PGA Championship. But as I suspect is always the case with tournaments that bring in quite a lot of money, there's a lot of lobbying going on, and a compromise was eventually reached, and Louis J. Willey was invited by the mayor of Birmingham to become an honorary member.
Again, that's incredible. In 1990. Then again, I guess let's not get political. Let's move on. Let's not talk about what's happening in America right now. Anyway, you were saying.
Well, all I was saying is that 4 years later, a certain Tiger Woods, would win the 1994 individual collegiate title at the same course, and the position had not changed. There was still only one black member of the club at that time. So
that's incredible. In 1994.
But yeah, I mean, that's pretty much the tournament. I mean, it's I'm sorry, like a little couple of tangents on special invites, but it's played across 4 rounds, traditional format. Lose half the field after 2 rounds. Well, top 50 technically speaking, including ties, and then you play for the title over the course of the final 2 rounds, with the final round obviously traditionally being on a Sunday. And if there's a tie, you have a sudden death playoff across the 18th and the 10th until there's a winner. Although it's never gone beyond the second playoff hole.
Yeah, it used to be full rounds for the playoff, and I believe, I might be right in saying that it went to multiple full rounds on some occasions, presumably when full rounds were drawn, or tied, I should say, which is an incredible amount of playoff golf to play. I think the sudden death version they have now is excellent, and it results in brilliant finishes, like if you recall 2012 being a particularly good finish, where a certain Bubba Watson drove out of the pine with a lot of pull on it, turned it about 90 degrees and left it about 10 feet from the hole to win that playoff, which is, in my opinion, and this is notwithstanding Tiger Woods' chip in 2005, the best shot I've ever seen in Masters history. I don't know if you're aware of the one I'm referring to, but it is an incredible shot.
Bubba's shot. Yeah, I'm very familiar with Bubba's shot.
It's just incredible.
It is one of the most iconic shots, I think, in the tournament's history, as you say, and a clutch moment as well. Like,
yes,
which is, the way these things happen, always enter folklore when there's heaps of pressure.
Indeed. So that's 2012 is regarded as one of the great tournaments. I don't know if you've got any more of an introduction to talk about at this point, but we could go on to talk about the great tournaments in the past.
Well, we could talk about the tournaments, we can talk about the traditions, whichever way round you want to do it, mate. I'll defer.
I think I'll give you a voice of rest. You've introduced this beautifully. But yes, so there's a few tournaments that stand out historically as being the greatest, amongst obviously some great tournaments past. 1960, Arnold Palmer, the great Arnold Palmer, who probably just narrowly misses out on the GOAT conversation that may or may not be coming later. But in terms of the Masters, he has the 3rd highest number of wins overall with 4. His best being 1960, where he pulled out clutch birdies on 17 and 18 to grab his 2nd win of 4. in the Masters. 1997, very notable for the arrival of a certain Tiger Woods on the scene, winning his first major by 12 shots, which is still a record, with the lowest score to par of -18, which is still a record, I believe. 2004, Phil Mickelson getting his first major at the age of, I think he was about 34 at that point. He was renowned as being one of the best players to have never won one, but pulled out of the bag and famously leapt in the air in joy at the end of that.
Mickelson's backstory is so good, man. Like how long he had to wait for one, and then to go and get it.
Yes, and then
insane.
And then to win a few over the next few years, but then to go a few more years without winning one, and then win one. I think he might not be the oldest man to ever win one at 50, or he might be, but he managed to win one at 50.
Who's this? Sorry,
not Phil Mickelson.
Nah,
not a Masters, I should say.
Oh, okay, yeah. I was going to say Nicholas has got the record at the Masters. He won one when he was 46. But yeah.
Yes, well, I'll come to that shortly. No, Mickelson won the PGA Championship when he was 50, which is obviously impressive. 2005, the legend, probably other than the one I mentioned, Bubba Watson, the greatest shot in Masters history, where Tiger chipped in at the 16th. If you've seen any clip from a golf tournament ever, you have probably seen this one. This is the one where he chips in from just outside the green. He lands it on the top of the green, takes about a 90-degree turn, rolls slowly towards the cup, stops right on the edge of the cup, stays, and then drops in. And you see the camera vibrating from the chair that goes up from the crowd. And it is obviously Tiger fist pump. It's iconic. And that was at a point where he was chasing, and he got back into the mix and ended up forcing a playoff and winning the playoff. And the chap he was up against in that, let me just get the information here.
Oh, this is the unreal quote.
So he beat Chris DiMarco in the playoff that day. Chris DiMarco said, "I went out and shot 68 around here on Sunday, which is usually a very good round, and 12 under is usually good enough to win. It's just that I was playing against Tiger Woods."
Yeah, it's so good.
Sums it up, really.
And it's like that chip as well. Like, obviously everyone will have seen that chip, or anyone who's interested in golf will have seen that chip. It's almost as if it's willed in by the crowd. Like, it genuinely seems to stop on the lip of the cup and then just go again. It's very hard to do it justice, just verbally. But just if anyone hasn't seen it, just YouTube it. It's insane.
I was going to say, if you haven't seen it, just watch it and look at how much the camera shakes from the crowd cheering. It's one of the things I love most about watching sport on TV. When something happens which there's so much joy and so much noise created, you can see it physically. I remember it, David Beckham, when he scored the free kick against Greece. Watch his celebration after that and you can see it there. For anyone who doesn't know, going off topic a little bit, but that sealed England's qualification for the World Cup, when in a game we did not deserve to get anything out of whatsoever. But it happens in Tiger's chip as well, and it's just an outpouring of joy, and just how lucky you must feel to be in that situation, watching that live.
And the commentators, mate,
incredible.
They just lose their partiality, or impartiality, rather, become partial. Yes. I love that.
And why not? Because they love sport.
Yeah, exactly.
Sport is the winner in that situation.
Just cuts through it all, doesn't it? It's unreal.
Yeah, speaking of legendary commentary, arguably the greatest Masters tournament of all time, and you've already briefly mentioned this, 1986. Jack Nicklaus was 46 years old. He had already won 5 Masters tournaments, but hadn't won one for a fair few years. He went into the round 7 shots behind. He went into the last 5 holes still 4 shots behind, and then he rattled off an eagle at 15, a birdie at 16, a birdie at 17. So the iconic moment came on the 17th, where he had a putt from 10 feet or so, and he nailed it and unforgettably raised his putter in the air in celebration, and the commentator came out and said, "Maybe, yes, sir," as it went in. One of the most famous calls in golf history, and it's just a wonderful thing. It's mythical almost at this point, as also 2019 was, as you may recall, for similar reasons. A past champion, a legend of the sport, someone who'd won the Masters title 4 times before, at a older age, 43 years old, Tiger Woods sealing it in 2019. Fist pump and the noise there as well, and him celebrating with his family. It's absolutely iconic.
Mate, these guys write their own scripts. Like they genuinely do. Like golf is like psychological warfare against yourself.
It is. So it's a very good way of describing it. That I don't know if anyone listening has ever played golf, but your biggest opponent, almost your only opponent, is yourself. I mean, if you're playing to a handicap, you should have had a handicap set up so everyone is at an even level. You're essentially just playing against yourself and your own focus and your own calmness and your own judgment in a situation. But
I was saying to my girlfriend earlier, Jack, like I was sort of telling her about what we were doing for this episode. You can't beat someone at golf. Like you can only shoot your best round. And if it just happens to be better than someone else's, then you end up winning. And that's the way it is. Like you can obviously like that. I'm oversimplifying slightly because you can psych each other out and you can get in your own head. And, someone can do something and put you under pressure and that sort of thing. So there is that dynamic to it. And obviously it's not. But you might be 4 or 5 holes away from your closest opponent. And you might not even see what they're doing. So yeah, I think it's unique in that sense that you're effectively playing yourself.
Yeah, I mean, if you're not in the same group so for anyone who doesn't know, in the final 2 rounds of major tournaments, once the cut has happened, you get sorted into groups based on where you are in the standings. Essentially, so the top 3 in the standings will be together, then the next 3 will be together, and so on and so forth. The idea being that it makes it more likely that the last putt of the day is the winning putt, which is obviously what a TV audience wants to see, what directors want to see, and what anyone watching at the course wants to see. But it can be the case that someone has a good round, someone has a bad round. You do end up in a situation where you are 2 or 3 holes away, and you hear the crowd noise, and you have to make judgments over it. And it must just be very psychological to block that out and to focus entirely on your own game, as opposed to and other than maybe if you see scoreboards or you're getting results through or your caddy's telling you or whatever, you don't know in that moment you're lining up a shot what the situation is. You just have to focus on your own game. And it is absolutely unique in that regard.
And just, I don't know why you just jogged my memory there, mate, but in terms of, I think it's because of the pairings. Like, one interesting quirk about the Masters is the US Amateur qualifies, US Amateur Champion qualifies. And every single year they are paired with the returning champion.
That's cool.
For the first 2 rounds, which is a nice little tradition.
It's probably a nice tradition in that you can probably look back on it, and a lot of the time the US Amateur Champion will be someone who later goes on to succeed in the game. So you probably end up seeing a 21-year-old future major winner paired up with someone who is now in their 40s or 50s, a legend of the game. You probably have a lot of pairings like that when you look back. Very good. Yeah. Very cool rule.
And I know we've gone slightly off topic here, but you were waxing...
Oh, we do.
Yeah, I know. But you were waxing lyrical about Jack Nicklaus, and it's not the first time he's achieved something remarkable at Augusta. This is not quite as detailed, but it's just a nice little nod to how damn good he was. In '66, he one of his 3rd title, I think it was, despite 4 of his friends dying on the eve of the tournament in a plane crash on their way to watch him. He went on to win the tournament still. I can't tell you any more details of it. It's just a little nugget I came across when doing a little bit of reading for this. But yeah, pretty insane. So when we talk about psychological fortitude, not just playing yourself, but playing your demons, playing your emotions, coming through like that is insane.
That's incredible. Yeah, I've got a couple of notes on that. Yeah, it was friends from his hometown, so like long-term friends from his childhood, including the guy he basically learned to play the game with alongside, a guy called Bob Barton, were killed in a plane crash on their way to Augusta to watch him play. So, his best friends in the entire world. One can only imagine what that feels like.
Yeah.
Let's hope neither of us ever find out, otherwise this podcast might come to an abrupt end.
Yeah, well, fingers crossed. That would be
Yeah.
a bit of a bummer.
Yeah.
But no, that's a remarkable story. So 6 titles across what, like 25 years, 23 years to be precise, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He also he set up a championship level golf tournament in his hometown to commemorate them, called the Memorial Tournament, as well.
Oh, that's cool.
Which is, I believe, still played to this day.
Yeah. And it should be said, I mean, I think you might have already said it actually, but Nicholas is the tournament's most successful player.
Yes.
Oldest winner, most top tens, with 22, most cuts made, 37. So, if you were to be discussing who is the greatest to play at Augusta, you wouldn't look much further. But than the Golden Bear, as he was known. But the wider debate is one perhaps still to come. Can I chuck a couple of other stats at you about the players and the competition itself?
Literally always.
Well,
you know what I like.
Let's start at the present day. Reigning champ, Scotty Scheffler. First winner, Horton Smith in 1934. I've already spoken about Jack. Tiger's the youngest winner, with a then course record of 18 under as a 21-year-old in 97.
Of course, no, it was beaten, wasn't it?
Yeah, very recently.
Was it Scotty Scheffler?
No, Scheffler's a current champ. Who has it? Dustin Johnson, maybe?
Yeah.
So yeah, but still remarkable. And some more fun stats. Mike Weir, first left-hander to win the tournament in 2003. He's also
Canadian.
the first Canadian. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And the aforementioned Gary Player has the most appearances with 52, which is quite insane. I don't know how you rack up 52 appearances at the Masters.
That's crazy. I think in Gary Player's case, you do it by being nicknamed Mr. Fitness.
That's great. I didn't know that.
Even into his 80s.
Oh, really? Jeez. Yeah.
Yeah. Very, very fit man.
But I mean, it's not all about the winners, though, Jack. And we should probably make this very clear. I mean, there's a lot that could be said. I think Spieth's had a nightmare there once. Obviously, we know Rory's had a nightmare there once, going into the final round. But perhaps, well, not perhaps, the unluckiest man in Masters history is undoubtedly Greg Norman. He has come extremely close quite a few times. He finished in the top 5 at the Masters 8 times, but never won. And that included 81. He was leading into the second. I'm not saying that these were his top 5 finishes, rather, but this is a snapshot of his fortunes at the tournament. 81, he led in the second round, but ended up finishing 4th. In 1986, he birdied 14 through 17 to tie Jack Nicklaus for the lead, but ended up pushing his approach on the 18th and bogeyed, handing it back to Nicklaus. 87, he lost in a playoff to Larry Mize, so forgive me, Larry, if this ever reaches your ears. But he was, by the way, Larry being the first Augusta native to ever win the tournament. Just a little sidestep there.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. But he lost the playoff to Larry because Larry chipped him from 45 yards. So, you know,
that'll do it.
That if you ever thought that you were ever going to win it, that would probably drain whatever optimism you had from you. And then in 96 is the really famous one, which everyone probably remembers.
I remember this. This is probably the first time I ever remember a golf tournament because it was an Englishman who won it, Nick Felder, and my grandparents were very into golf, and I remember this being at the very least mentioned on TV, perhaps this being a thing. But yeah, he was well up at the end of the
6 up.
6 up at the end of the third round. Oh my word!
And Faldo won by 5.
I know
that's an implosion. It's an implosion. It's an implosion. Yeah, but they can do that to you.
Well, when it's happened before.
Yeah, and
as you say, ultimately it's a game against yourself.
Right, but this is the thing that's so interesting about Norman is like it sounds like we're going in on him here, but he kept coming back. He kept coming back for more. So the geezer had psychological fortitude, but obviously it just wasn't quite enough because it happened again in '98. So sorry, Greg, but he's leading on the back 9 in the final round, but again faded to the eventual winner, which was Jose Maria Olazabal. Again, apologies to any Spaniards, but he picked up his second green.
I think British people have been butchering that name for many a year, Ben. You don't need to apologise.
But yeah, sorry, I know just sort of reeled off some stats there, but I just think there's some fun stories kicking around, as there always are in tournaments like this.
Yeah, that's very good. I'd not come across that in my reading, Greg Norman, probably because I was, and this is going to sound like I'm going in on Greg again, probably because I was focused on people who'd won it. Sorry, Greg. Greg Norman did win two Open Championships.
Yeah, he wasn't shit. Yeah,
no, he was not at all, and lots of high finishes in the other majors as well. So, very talented golfer. I'm sure he made plenty of money out of it too. So, sure he doesn't care about a couple of blokes. Well, we're not criticising him. Just
just reading off the history, mate. You can't run from history. Just like the club can't run from their problematic past and controversies.
Well, episode 1 we were very complimentary for good reason about an Australian. Episode 2 it stands to reason we go the opposite way. We are English after all.
But yeah, I don't know. What do you want to talk about? I've got some stuff on the course that we can talk about. Stuff on the club itself, the traditions. What's your preference? Where do you want to go next?
Let's go for some traditions. Why not?
Traditions. Well, that's often the best thing about sport, isn't it? The traditions. Should we do it chronologically, as if we were going into a Masters week?
Let's do it.
Anyone who's not as familiar with Augusta National Golf Club, here are the key traditions. Champions Dinner. You must have heard of the Champions Dinner.
I've heard of the Champions Dinner.
Have you heard of the dinners that have been put on the menu?
I've not heard the menu items, and I'd love to hear them.
Well, I mean, I don't have all the specifics because that would be boring, but it is usually something that the defending champion has a relationship with, so like, from their home country or something like that. But there is one sweet story from 2011, which has a tinged with sadness. But when Phil Mickelson won one of his green jackets, he arranged for a Spanish-themed menu in the hopes that Seve Ballesteros would be able to attend when he was poorly. But unfortunately, Seve wasn't able to, and he actually ended up passing away a few weeks later. But I thought that was a lovely touch, because obviously he's a very wide discretion.
Yeah, 1983 champion Seve Ballesteros. He is probably, in terms of overseas sportsmen, I don't know anyone who is as beloved as Seve is in England.
Yeah, it's weird.
Absolutely adored. He won, I think, 3 Open Championships. So obviously that's the British Open, as well as a couple of Masters, 1980 and 1983. Legend, and that is actually a very sweet story. That's kind of made me send a shiver down my spine. That was lovely.
Yeah, it is nice, isn't it? And he's also, you omitted the fact that he's a Ryder Cup legend.
Yes, that's probably why.
But that tradition was started by Ben Hogan, the famous Ben Hogan, in 1952. And it's held on the Tuesday before the Masters. And it's only open to past champions and, of course, certain board members, because, the boys aren't going to miss out.
Yes.
But that's the Champions Dinner, which is a light-hearted way of starting a tournament week. And sticking with the food theme just for a second, I didn't know this, but just because I thought it was weird. Pimento Cheese Sandwiches.
Yes. It's I don't really know what pimento cheese is. I think it's an American thing. I know what pimentos are, and I know what cheese is, obviously. It seems a strange combination, but I've heard this, and also I believe they're still sold for I think $2.50 or $1.50. They're still sold deliberately incredibly cheaply at the event. So as you can imagine, most sporting events behind closed doors, you tend to jack up the food prices, not keep them low. So that's nice.
Yeah.
Even if pimento cheese is a strange one to go with.
Well, I'm like you. I don't know what pimento is, and I have no idea why it's a concession that's been around since the 40s. But apparently it is.
It's basically just a sweet pepper, like a red pepper.
Oh, okay. Well, people who go to the Masters seem to like it, I guess.
I guess so.
So yeah, if you're a patron, you're having pimento cheese sandwiches. If you're a former champ, you're having whatever the reigning champ wants you to eat in the lead up to the Masters. But getting back to the golf, one of the most fun parts of it is the par 3 contest.
Oh yes, I love the par 3 contest.
Yeah, around since 1960, semi-social, par 3, played on a Wednesday, day before the first round. I think it's been played every year apart from 2017 when it was washed out, and 2020, 2021 they didn't hold it because of COVID, although obviously the main tournament did go ahead.
A fair compromise, probably.
Yeah, exactly. Apparently weirdly it's a par 27 course in the northeast corner of the club's grounds, so it's a specific specialist par 3 course, single round, and traditionally all the contestants participate with family members caddying for them, and sometimes even allow them to play shots on their behalf and stuff, so taken super seriously.
Yes, exactly as seriously as it should be taken, I think, for a par 3 tournament.
Exactly.
Makes for very good highlights, though.
Yeah, well, talking of highlights, man, it's not shy of a hole-in-one. There's been 94 of them up to 2019. I don't know what the up-to-date stats are. I'm sure we could find them on the internet somewhere. But that worked out at about 1.5 a year. Although if you were there in 2016, you'd have had a good day, because there were 9.
9. That's mad.
Exactly.
Just replace one of the holes with a bucket or something. Incredible.
A lot of Peugeots given away, or whoever was sponsoring that particular tournament. Yeah, some famous names have won it, though. Padraig Harrington has got the most wins.
Nice.
He's won it 3 times. Tom Watson, Sandy Lyle, Sam
Watson.
Snead. A couple of multiple winners. And yeah, I think there's only 7 that have won it more than once. But a couple of other notable champions, just to keep name-dropping people. Arnold Palmer, Gary Brewer, Davis Love III, Vijay Singh, Louis Oosthuizen, Luke Donald and Ricky Fowler have all also won it. The lowest winning score was by Ben Walker in 2016, and he hit an 8 under, which I actually think is pretty astonishing.
Well, he must have had at least 1 hole-in-one there, if not 2.
Yeah.
That was a year of all the hole-in-ones.
Oh, that's a great point. I didn't even pick up on that. Ben Walker just dropping hole-in-ones the whole way around. But yeah, it's a bit of a curse, though. Do you want to know why? Do you know why?
No, I don't know why. So you're about to tell me why.
Yeah. So no player has ever won the par 3 contest and the Masters in the same year.
There you go.
So don't win.
Use up all your luck and your skill on the Wednesday. I'll teach you.
Yeah, and only Vijay and Ben Crenshaw have won the Masters after having won the par 3.
Okay, in like years to come. Impressive.
So
Vijay Singh, though, what a guy. What a player.
Absolutely. But yeah, that's a fun part of tournament week. I think Rory once had Caroline Wozniacki caddying for him, didn't he, in the par 3? And there was
I bet that distracted some of the photographers who were there.
No comment.
Probably for the best.
But yeah, carrying it on. This is fun, right? I don't think this is still done anymore, but I think this is one of my favourite things that I learned about with the Masters. They used to have a thing called, I say they used to, this might still go on. Obviously, we were talking about like the board members and everything muscling on Champions Dinner and their self-imposed discretion for the invitational aspect of this. So I wouldn't be surprised if behind closed doors there's some, similar conduct prevailing. But there's a thing called the Calcutta, which is an unofficial sweepstake of the players, where all of the entrants for a tournament were auctioned off to the punters. And the best players and obviously the favourites will go for major money. And then some of the other entrants who perhaps were less fancied to win would be pulled together so that they would be sold off in like syndicates, I guess.
Yeah, that would be the correct word for it. Fair enough.
And then all the money that people bid in order to be, to assign their player of choice, I guess, would go into just a pot. And now you're thinking, of course, Ben, they must give it to charity. No. This just is for the boys. And so, an elitist sport it was, and perhaps still is. And if your player goes on to win it, you would get the majority of that pot. And then the second to fourth place would split the rest.
Okay.
And there is actually... Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say that would be a great idea even to persist within the modern day if 50% of that money went to charity. That would be an excellent idea. Somehow it doesn't feel quite so... There's some connotations there, and it doesn't feel quite so comfortable in my mind without it being a charitable thing. But anyway, an interesting piece of history there.
Well, it's even more fun than that because, you're quite right. If there was a formality to it and a charitable aspect to it, then perhaps one could justify it. But it certainly does undermine the integrity somewhat of perhaps the odd tournament or two. And there's a chap called Hermann Kaiser, who's the 1946 winner of the Masters, which was the first to be held after World War II, which we'll come back to, because that's something we like to do. He thinks, or at least he's on record as having stated that he thinks that the Calcutta Cup, that's a different thing altogether. The Calcutta nearly cost him the title. Kaiser went unsold in the Calcutta and formed part of a group before the 46 tournament. And he was a massive outsider, and across his 4 rounds, he encountered a series of issues, you might call them, which he thinks progressively sort of contrived or conspired to sabotage him as the tournament.
Sabotage, yeah. Excellent.
But basically, as he went deeper in the tournament, he remained in the hunt against some of the more favoured punters, more favoured players who punters had quite some major money on. Weird things started to happen, and during one of the later rounds he was told the wrong tee time by a club official and nearly missed his tee time when he was leading. And then he was also given a 13-year-old caddy, because this was back in the day where the players got assigned their caddies and they didn't get to bring their own caddies or choose them. And it nearly worked, because Ben Hogan came from 5 shots back and tied with him, but then on the final, on the 18th, Hogan 3-putted when a birdie would have won it for him. A par would have sent it to a playoff, but he 3-putted for a bogey, and Kaiser was champion. So, yeah, Kaiser described it as the greatest thing to ever happen to me. So, yeah, a nice ending, but interesting things go on when people are unofficially betting.
That would make for an excellent comedy film.
Yeah, it would, wouldn't it? It's like Happy Gilmore, but professional.
Yeah, like Happy Gilmore, Caddyshack, but based on a true story.
Do you know what I'm saying else about Kaiser? Just because this is completely unrelated to the Calcutta, but I just thought it was weird. His nickname was the Missouri Mortician.
Okay, and why was that?
I don't know. It's not clear, but it sounds very sinister.
Is it just no one's sure? Or were you just unable to find out?
I couldn't find the answer. He wasn't. Okay. He wasn't a pathologist, as far as I could tell.
I was going to say that would be that would be the obvious solution, but interesting.
Weird. But he made the 47 Ryder Cup team as a result of his win, and the USA demolished us 11-1 back in the day where the US played the UK. But the funny thing is that Kaiser was the one, so denied the clean sweep.
Yeah, that'll teach him.
They got him eventually. That's probably the Calcutta of the Ryder Cup influencing that. Someone that
must be
someone had bet on an 11-1 win.
Yeah,
but that's the Calcutta. It's kind of fun. The Crow's Nest. Have you heard of the Crow's Nest? I didn't know about this.
Yes. No, I have actually heard of this. This is where the amateurs stay, isn't it?
Yes. exactly.
It's like a 5-bedroom, a nice little 5-bedroom apartment, which is cool.
Mate, it's like 1,200 square feet, so a nice little
Okay,
apartment.
a nice big 5-bedroom apartment.
Exactly. But yeah, they get to stay there. It's kind of fun. And then I think this is a nice rule. So there's a lot of weird rules at Augusta because it's very traditional. But no phones, which is cool.
Okay, that is good actually,
Yeah.
as opposed to just having to mute them.
Yeah,
I don't know how long they'll. I think that is nice because you don't get all the pictures from the course and everything as well.
Mm. They kick you the fuck out
distracted
if you use it, or if you get caught using it. I'm sure people do, but they actually do police it. And if you're caught with your phone on the course, you can get kicked out.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. If you're there to watch sport, watch some sport.
Exactly.
The amount of events you go to nowadays where it's just people with their phones out, I approve of that rule. I wish that rule was. I'm sounding like such an old man now. I wish that was more normal.
No, but mate, people Sky are filming it. Like they got better cameras than you. Just enjoy what you're watching.
You're not going to get better footage than Sky Sports are.
Exactly. If you want to watch it back, just watch it
or
back on YouTube.
Or CBS or whoever. Yeah.
But yeah. Anyway, good rule. What else? Caddies.
Yeah.
Caddies.
Oh yeah.
This is
less good rule.
Yes, this was a less good rule. Do you want to talk about caddies?
I can do. Give your voice a rest. You're doing an excellent job so far. Well done. But yeah. So yes, this is a slightly more negative tradition, and obviously goes back to the history of the area, the history of America generally. But so until 1983, all the players in the Masters were required to use the services of an Augusta National Club caddy, which obviously on the face of it sounds fine.
Mm-hmm.
But by club tradition, those caddies were always black, which is a very questionable policy for a club which, as mentioned, didn't invite any black members until 1990.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, this being Georgia, historically in the south of the country, historically one of the places that resisted desegregation for a long time, being a private members club and getting to make their own rules, you could argue it is a persistence of that. However, it was sort of reinforced by the founders, co-founder Clifford Roberts is reputed to have said, "As long as I'm alive, golfers will be white and caddies will be black."
Yeah.
Which is that is what that is. But however, since 1983, which is 6 years after Roberts' death, which may or may not be a coincidence, players have been allowed the option of bringing their own caddy to a tournament, regardless of the race of that caddy. So again, I don't hate the idea of providing of caddies. I guess it would be an equaliser, but that is just incredible that was something that persisted into into the 1980s.
It's mad.
But a handful of years before our birth, Ben.
And to the credit of some of the players, when that rule was changed, I think quite a few of them employed the club caddies. And one of those guys that did that was Jack Nicklaus, I think, which is a nice touch, obviously. But perhaps it shouldn't have. Well, not perhaps. What am I saying? It should not have been necessary for them to have done so.
Yeah, again, the issue I have is completely not with the club providing the caddies. I just reiterate that point.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, in more modern times, I think the caddies are pretty iconic at Augusta.
Yeah, it's an iconic look. I mean, obviously, even to this day, they wear the white jumpsuit, green Masters cap, white tennis shoes. They all look the same. Player's name on the back, and obviously, certain players have certain caddies they bring to every tournament, and the caddies are rewarded handsomely if they're with a good player, with a percentage of the winnings. It is a good job to be a caddy, and they do work hard for it. They have to know the course better than they know themselves, and better than the player knows it, and allow their player to focus on the game psychological battle against themselves, and not worry about yardage or choice of club or any silly things like that.
Yeah. Didn't Tiger's caddy used to be the highest paid sportsman in New Zealand at one point?
Quite possibly, given most sportsmen in New Zealand tend towards rugby and cricket and sports which aren't historically, obviously that's changing, but aren't historically well remunerated. So yeah,
Could be a myth,
he was making even 5 or 10% of what Tiger Woods' winnings were. Tiger Woods won $99 million between 2007 and 1997 and 2008. $99 million. So 5 or 10% of that, whatever it is, cha-ching.
Yeah, it's good money. There's some pretty cool stories about caddies, or funny ones at least, associated with the role. Not just good on the course, good value off it as well, occasionally, I think. Bert Yancey might have had a similar had one of those experiences. Bert Yancey himself who had an interesting life. He had bipolar back in the day, perhaps before it was recognised as a mental health condition. Had spent some 9 months in a psychiatric hospital at West Point whilst he was serving. Went on to record back-to-back third-place finishes in 67 and 68, but had one interesting experience at the Masters with one of his caddies when he lent his caddy his car the night before, which, questionable judgment. And when the car also had Yancey's clubs in it, and when he came to play the next day, the caddy was nowhere to be seen. So the assistant caddy master was tasked with finding this young man, and thought long and hard about where this caddy might be if he wasn't at the club.
Interesting choice of words.
But his instincts were spot on, and he found the caddy in a local brothel, and the car and the clubs were recovered and returned to Yancey just in time for his tea time. Needless to say, the caddy was sacked. But yeah,
fair enough.
I think that's probably the right side of the disciplinary action. Yancey went on to win 7 PGA Tours for what it's worth, and became an advocate for mental health, which is nice.
Oh, that's good. Probably when that wasn't such a common thing as well, I imagine, given this was the 60s when he was playing. So that's good.
Yeah, exactly. And not a caddy, but a caddy is another good story. Sammy Bird, you heard about him?
Oh, this Babe Ruth caddy.
Yeah, this is the guy.
So he was a former Major League Baseball player for the Yankees. He used to pinch run for Ruth and take over defensively in late innings. If anyone knows about Babe Ruth, obviously legend of baseball, going to be on anyone's GOAT argument for baseball. But towards his later career, perhaps the waistline was getting a bit large, so needed a pinch runner and a defensive substitute from time to time to, let him get an early finish. But he used to play golf with Babe, hence the nickname. So Bird went on to have a golf career and entered the Masters 5 times. In 1948, he entered the history books for shooting one of the worst single-hole scores on the course with a 10, which sounds like one of my scores for a hole.
It's my average, I reckon.
He's a two-sport professional and the only person to have played in a World Series, which he won in 1932, and the Masters, and also achieved a career-high finish, a third at the Masters, and 6 PGA Tour wins. So let us not mug him off too much, Ben.
Yeah, geez.
That is fairly impressive, although I'm sure that probably about an hour of his life when he was slugging 10 on a hole probably is not one he wants to be remembered for.
Pretty funny that you have that kind of career and you're just known as Babe Ruth's caddy.
Yeah. I think if anything, that just shows what a big deal Babe Ruth was.
That's true, actually. That's fair.
And we will get to baseball. I can't wait to get to baseball. It's going to be a while, but we will get to it at some point.
We will.
And the Babe will get a mention.
It's inevitable since we're following the calendar.
Mm-hmm. October, baby.
Probably should doff a cap actually to the ladies because we haven't mentioned them yet. But whilst we're on caddies, first female caddy, I think 1983, a lady called Elizabeth Archer. Her dad, George Archer, was a champion in '69.
Okay.
And she caddied for him. And I think she was the first. Yeah, she was the first female caddy. And female caddies are pretty rare, actually. Like, to be fair, at the Masters, but they do. The ladies do their bit. And I think there have been some pretty big names with female caddies in the past, like Henrik Stenson, I think comes to mind. I can't remember off the top of my head all the others. But staying on the theme of the girls, the women's amateur has just finished, I think. It started in 2019 and it is just finished today. And it was won by Carla Bernat Escuda from Spain. He shot a 12 under.
Very good.
Yeah.
So that's at the Augusta National on the same course, presumably just off slightly shorter tees as per tradition.
So
I assume.
It's a bit odd. The final round is played at Augusta, but the first two I think might be held at another club, Champions Retreat Club, in Evans, Georgia. I might be getting this slightly wrong. I'm not overly familiar with the entire round format.
No, you're correct. Yeah, it's a 54-hole tournament. Yeah, first two rolls at the Champions Retreat Golf Club, and the final round at Augusta, which presumably is maybe after the cut.
Mm. And it's
fair enough.
But it is an amateur event, so it's not on the women's PGA. I think a lot of the women playing in it are collegiate, but not all. They come from all around the world, but most of them are at university in the States. But it's pretty cool, and it's obviously this decent development. I mean, it's come a bit late in the day, hasn't it? Like 2019 is pretty barbaric, but...
well, when you bear in mind that the first female members of Augusta National was only in, was it 2012?
Yeah, man. Yeah. Condoleezza Rice.
Yeah.
Is also black.
And Darla Moore.
So that tells you what...
She is, but she was also a Republican, a member of George Bush's cabinet. So I guess that would adhere her to some of the traditionalists of the course. But yeah, Condoleezza Rice and Darla Moore were the first female members in 2013. It was.
Oh, 2013.
Which is
Jesus.
Yeah. Which is 12 years ago. There you go.
That's pretty mad. It's pretty funny when like you say, let's not get too political, but when Tiger found himself in let's call it a pickle. I think that
that's one way of putting it.
Yeah, and his personal issues and private life were quite publicly ventilated in around 2010. Like, I think the chairman of the club was like hammering him, and it's like, dude, I'm not sure you got the moral high ground here, guys. I mean, I know Tiger. Let's not make any excuses for Tiger, but yeah, if you've got no female members, you don't have a female tournament yet, like maybe wind your neck in.
Yeah.
Get your own ducks in a row.
Maybe. Yeah. I don't think with its history, let's just say it's always been a little bit behind the times. So
yeah,
I'm not necessarily sure. I'm sure there are people more who would have more oomph behind that particular statement than them. Maybe they should leave it to someone else to comment on.
Well, yeah, especially when
such matters.
I think they quite heavily resisted some campaigning in the early 2000s, the club as well, about the no women membership, to the point where I think it might have even, or I mean, there's a bit of innuendo here, and I couldn't possibly back this up, but golf's obviously now an Olympic sport, and quite recently remade Olympic sport. I think went back in 2016 in Rio, and there's some suggestion though that the club's policy and their reaction to people lobbying for a change in that policy may have been taken on board by the IOC and delayed golf's readmittance to the Olympics. So, you know,
well, I'm not saying it's necessarily definitely the case, but it is a fact that the first time it was admitted as an Olympic tournament came just after they admitted female members for the first time. Whether or not that's coincidence or not, I don't know, but it is good to see golf moving, or the Augusta National certainly, and just golf in general, moving in the right direction. It is just the lag compared to the rest of the world and the rest of the sport is noticeable.
Yeah.
Shall we say.
Slow and steady doesn't win this particular race.
No.
But yeah, anyway, we've digressed slightly.
As we do.
Yeah, as we do. Rounding off the traditions in the week. Honorary tee shot. That's a fun thing. Past champs, basically, invited to hit an honorary tee shot in the morning of the first round to commence play.
Nice.
in the past, they've included Sam Snead, Arnold Palmer, Jack Nicklaus, Gary Player, the aforementioned Lee Elder, Tom Watson, which is quite a nice tradition. Only introduced in '63, maybe.
Yes.
But yeah,
Well remembered.
then you got the awards. Most of these are, not irrelevant. That's unfair, but nice to haves, but aren't the one that you're there for. But lowest score on each round receives a crystal vase. Players who score a hole in one or a double eagle win a large crystal bowl. Leave it to the listeners to decide whether they'd rather a vase or a bowl. Eagle gets you a pair of crystal goblets.
There must be a crystal manufacturer like round the corner.
Oh God,
There's a lot of crystal going on here.
Silver cup to the lowest scoring amateur to make the cut. Runner-up receives a silver medal, which was only introduced in '51. But the winner. Well, what does the winner get, Jack?
Legendary status. Remembered forever.
Yes, true. A Masters trophy.
A Masters trophy. But more importantly, the winners get the green jacket. They have the name engraved on the actual Silver Masters trophy, but they don't care about that.
Nah.
All they're really after is that green jacket. So the green jacket is presented to that year's winner by the previous year's winner.
Mm-hmm.
I believe if it's a back-to-back win, I think the chairman of the club presents it.
I think that's right.
On the rare occasion that happens. So yeah, the green jacket, introduced in 1949 and awarded to the champion. Previous champions were retroactively awarded it, so every champion ever of the Masters has been awarded a green jacket, some just not at the time. It's the official attire worn by members of the Augusta National, but only while on the club grounds. So each Masters winner essentially becomes an honorary member of the club. So the jacket is presented to him, the winner, inside the Butler cabin as soon after the end of the tournament as possible in a televised ceremony. And the presentation is then repeated outside the 18th green for the hoi polloi to enjoy.
The one in the cabin's a bit contrived, I think. But
yes.
There we are.
It's always quite awkward,
I
think, when you watch it. I think they just want the jacket on. Get a few pictures with the family.
Exactly.
But apparently it's not a hard and fast rule, but generally speaking, only a first time and the current reigning champion may remove their jacket from the club grounds. And the champions must then return it to the clubhouse 1 year after their victory.
There's got to be people who've taken it home. There's just got.
Oh, I'm certain. It remains their personal property, but is stored with the other champions' jacket in a specifically designed cloakroom. And a golfer who wins the event multiple times will use the same green jacket. So they won't just get. Jack Nicklaus doesn't have 6 green jackets. He will have 1 green jacket unless he has to get refitted with one later.
That's a bit rubbish.
I mean, yeah, terrible. I think they could afford it.
Well,
Can't imagine what their fees are.
And also, like, if it's the thing that is synonymous with the win, and you want it, don't you? I don't know. Give the man his jackets is what I'm trying to say.
To reward a multiple winner, keep giving them jackets and just say, oh, you only have to leave one at the club.
Yeah, exactly.
Take the rest home with you.
Sure, that's a nice way of putting it. Actually, earn the right.
I can't even imagine what the old white guys at who run the Augusta National would think about someone going out and wearing an Augusta jacket to, oh God, like a concert or a football match or something like that. A nightclub. Goodness gracious me. Could you imagine?
I know. I don't like that. I think give the men their jackets when they win. But yeah, what can you say about the green jacket? The green jacket and the Masters. The Masters is the green jacket. The green jacket is the Masters.
Yeah.
It's
absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, we haven't really spoken about the course. Probably should.
No.
I mean, is anyone interested in the grass?
Is anyone interested in the grass?
Yeah, they might be, I guess.
Tell me, maybe I'll be interested. There might be some farmers, there might be some horticulturalists.
All right, well, for the grass enthusiasts out there, it was originally wide-bladed Bermuda, which, is one of my personal favourite brands of
Well,
grass.
bit old-fashioned, personally.
But it was replaced by the short-bladed Bermuda.
Common sense.
Yeah, but now it's the bent grass.
Ooh,
And I don't really...
not what I'd have done, but, each to their own.
I don't know what any of this means, mate, other than the fact that the putting greens are lightning.
Yes.
Like, literally so fast that many of the greens had to be reshaped and, on occasion, entirely redesigned because they changed the grass, which is...
Excellent.
Pretty, well, I guess means there's something in the grass. But, yeah, and the bunkers, if we're interested in sand, it used to be...
there might be some geologists, I don't know.
common beige sand. Yeah, replaced with the now signature, apparently, white feldspar. It's a quartz derivative of the mining of feldspar and is shipped in from North Carolina. So, who gives a shit, basically.
There you go. Yeah,
but
couldn't have put it better myself.
Yeah, I mean the course itself it's been through a few changes. I think the 10th hole used to be the first hole. They reversed the 9s, which now means that the first was the 10th and vice versa. Been a few, bunkers have been added, water hazards extended, tee boxes have been built. Like shitloads of trees. Obviously, it's in the woods, and I don't know, been some undulation put in there. The fun thing about those changes, in all seriousness, is that back in the day they used to make the changes covertly to make it harder. So they'd lengthen the fairway to make a drive more likely to find the sand.
Without telling anyone.
Exactly, yeah, which is kind of fun. But you can't get away with that in the modern day, right? Because the players get so many
this is why you need your caddies. This is what you need your caddies for.
Right, exactly.
The sneaking in changes.
But yeah, I mean, to sort of give it some context, the current course is currently 475 metres, or in golfing money, 525 yards longer than it was in 2001, and I guess that's to take into account the fact that guys are hitting absolute bombs now. So
yeah, and equipment changes as well.
Yeah, good point. Technology, etc. I think the first hole is the second most difficult hole on the course. So you're just in for a tough start to the day. No escaping that. And then a couple of the more famous features. Amen Corner is the most famous part of the course, right?
I mean, again, without wanting to annoy anyone north of the border, possibly the most iconic stretch in all of golf.
Yeah,
as well.
That's a. I think that's
certainly in terms of consecutive holes.
You could make the argument, couldn't you?
Yeah.
But yeah, most think it's the 11th, 12th, and 13th, but in fact, it's the second shot at the 11th, all of the 12th, and then the first two shots of the 13th. Yeah, well, I say that, right? That's unverified. But when I was looking it up and doing a little bit of digging and stuff, like the origins of Amen Corner are a bit odd. I think it all stems back to the 1958 Masters. It was the site of an argument between Arnold Palmer and Ken Venturi. I think Palmer was allowed a drop or relief for a plug ball. Venturi was arguing with him, claiming that Palmer had not followed protocol. The ball was unplayable.
I read about that today.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. And then
on the 12th.
Yeah, exactly. And then Venturi was leading at the time, I think, of the argument. But then Palmer went on to win. And then Sports Illustrated basically came up with the phrase, and then the origins of where it came from, like the Amen Corner. Like I think it's disputed, but it's sort of accepted that there was a jazz record in the 30s by a group led by Chicago's Mesro called "Shouting in That Amen Corner," and the shouting, the arguing between Venturi and Palmer is what coined its name.
Fair enough.
But yeah, there we are. Pretty weird, huh? And the Eisenhower tree? It's another...
Or was.
Yeah, it was, yeah. Gone forever. Located on the 17th. Basically named after President Dwight D. Eisenhower, who some might know as a former president and a fairly influential bloke in World War II. He just kept hitting it. basically.
Fair enough.
Yeah, so they just called it the Eisenhower
Hit the-
tree.
Hit the tree so many times.
No, they just called it. They named it after him. And apparently, like in 1956 at a club meeting, he proposed that it get cut down. Not
Because he
wanting.
kept hitting it.
Yeah, exactly. Used his presidential influence. But the club's chairman, which was Clifford Roberts, who we've spoken about previously, didn't want to offend his friend and the president of the entire country. So instead of answering his question or even dealing with it, he just found an excuse to adjourn the meeting. And
you have no jurisdiction here.
Exactly. And then I guess another one of there's a lot you could say about the course at Augusta, but the Saracen Bridge is another pretty fun point on the course. It's a flat stone footbridge covering the dam to the left of the pond on the front of the 15th green. And in the fourth round of the 54 edition, Gene Saracen holed a double eagle to tie with Craig Wood and force a 36-hole playoff, which he then went on to win.
There you go, 36-hole playoff.
Yeah,
ridiculous.
Which he won. But anyway, the shot is referred to as the shot heard around the world, and I think it's because it was a forward from 235 yards.
What, he holed it?
Yeah. Like
That's
second shot on a
mad.
par 5, maybe. It was anyway. It's like it's like an insane shot, and it just dropped, man. So he got a bridge named after him. That seems fair enough.
That seems fair, yeah.
But we mentioned Eisenhower earlier, and we always talk about the war. So
Always. 100% of the time so far.
Well, I mean, I say always, not in the context of the almanac,
The podcast,
yeah, but in the context of me and you chatting generally. And I do have a fun war story, if you'd like to hear.
You got a story?
Yeah.
Excellent.
You want to hear it?
Yeah, go on. Why not? We got time.
We've got time. All right. Well, our hero this time is Lloyd Eugene Mangrum, also nicknamed the Icicle.
Nice.
Joined the PGA Tour in 1937. Went on to win 36 events. Good player. He also played on 4 Ryder Cup teams in 47, 49, 51,
Nice.
53. And the last occasion that I just mentioned there, he was actually playing he's a playing captain of the Ryder Cup team.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, exactly. Like decent career. Anyway, Lloyd, what was his relationship with the Masters? So he finished in the top 10 at the Masters 10 consecutive years, and he never won it, but he entered in the history books when he shot 64 in the opening round in 1940, which was basically a Masters record at the time, and it stood for 46 years. So that's
Nice.
what he was famous for in the context of the Masters, just shooting unbelievably low scores. But Jack, he wasn't just being shot at, or he wasn't just shooting, rather, on the course. He was being shot at just a few years later. He actually joined General Patton's Third Army as America joined the war. And the 1942 Masters was the last until the end of World War II, and it was only a couple of months after Pearl Harbor. And Mangrum wasn't the only guy to serve. Bobby Jones, Ben Hogan, Sam Snead, I think, all joined. And Bobby Jones became an intelligence officer in the Army Air Corps. And I think he might have been involved in the planning for D-Day and landed in France on D-Day +1. But anyway, I digress, because there are obviously many stories one could talk about in respect of World War II. But our guy Lloyd, let's get back to him. He was sent to the Ardennes, which... bum draw.
The trees are exploding.
Yeah, exactly. Anyone who's seen Band of Brothers. And he was involved in the Battle of the Bulge, and he was injured there, and he received a Purple Heart, and he won 4 battle stars. But when he got home, and this sort of makes this story all the better, really. When he got home, he went on to win his one and only major, which was the US Open in 1946, and he did tie second again in 49 in the Masters. So
very nice.
Yeah, Lloyd Mangrum from Augusta to the Bulge and back, which I think is a really cool story.
Yeah, That is cool.
The bulge it features again in Masters history. That's where General Dwight Eisenhower, as he was known at the time, was when he was introduced to the bloke that would eventually go on to introduce him to the club, which I think is a really weird symbiosis. It was a journalist. I can't remember the newspaper he was working for, but I say he was a journalist. He might not have been a journalist, but he was working for a newspaper.
Yeah,
and he had a reason to meet Eisenhower during the war, which is all to do with regulations in France, to do with commerce, really relatively dry stuff. But the two guys got on really well. And then when I think Eisenhower goes on to become the president of Columbia University, and he leaves the army to take up that position, and he has a career gap, for want of a better phrase, probably just taking some time off after winning World War II. And the guy he met essentially helps him write his memoirs, and then as present or a thank you or what have you, invites the future president for a golfing away day and takes him to
where. Yeah, I was going to say, where would that be?
Exactly. Takes him down to Augusta, and yeah, there we are. That's how Eisenhower became familiar with the Masters. Well, not just the Masters.
Very nice.
But yeah, those are the World War II stories I have for you this week, Jack. I'm sure you'll have more for us next week. But yeah, anything else you wanted to?
Yeah, I mean,
raise?
Eisenhower's an interesting one because obviously he became president. He was president 1953, 1961. He never attended the Masters while he was president because he didn't want to be too much of a distraction, essentially. But he always made sure he was there on the Monday to play around with the winner.
Is that right?
Yeah, one of the perks of being president. But yeah, his love for the Masters was so entrenched that the Major League Baseball season was shortened by 8 games, and the season started later, to allow Eisenhower to both partake in his traditions around the Masters and throw the ceremonial first pitch of the Major League Baseball season.
Jeez, so, the influence.
It's nice being prez.
Yeah, that is. Yeah. Nice for some, isn't it?
Indeed.
That's unreal. But yeah, I don't know. Is there anything else to discuss on the Masters?
I think the only thing we need to finish on is I think we need to discuss a couple of the big names in a bit more depth. I think we've already mentioned them, but I think you and me need to decide once and for all right here, right now, who the greatest golfer of all time is. Oof. Not just the greatest player at the Masters. Let's use this opportunity and let's talk about who the greatest golfer of all time is. So I'd like to propose some nominees, and in fact, I'm gonna keep this short and sweet. I'm going to propose 2 nominees.
Yeah.
And we know who these are. There's no, like, you say this to anyone, there's only 2 people in contention for this title. It is the Golden Bear himself, Jack Nicklaus, or the man who changed the sport. And I don't think either of us would be as interested in golf as we are if it wasn't for Tiger Woods. Tiger Woods, he not only was he brilliant, but he was very marketable. Obviously, he was very unlike anything we've ever seen before. And one of the most amazing things about Tiger Woods is the Tiger effect, as they call it, the effect that he had on the sponsorship in the game, the money going into the game, the earnings that the players made. It's ridiculous. Someone did a study on it, and as I mentioned before, between 1997 and 2008, no one made more money on the tour, as you would imagine, than Tiger Woods. He was all dominant in that time. He won 14 majors, I think, in that period. 14 of the 15 he's won were obviously won during that period. Just the 2019 one otherwise. And he made just shy of $100 million from the tour. And next on the list was one Vijay Singh, who I love. Vijay Singh, who I think won about $69 million during that period, if I remember the numbers correctly. Someone did a study and worked out that if it wasn't for Tiger Woods, Vijay Singh would have made a not paltry, but a much less significant $33 million during that period. Tiger more than doubled his earnings by the amount of eyes that he turned upon golf and the amount of people he got playing golf. And if you think about it, the video games, the Nike deals, the merchandise, and just the fact we used to love golf.
The aura, mate.
Like we were 10-year-old kids watching golf because of Tiger Woods, and you could not name a single other golfer in the world, but you knew who Tiger Woods was. So yeah, as they say, Tiger Woods, he'd beat you, but he'd make you rich.
I mean, am I supposed to try and come up with a counter argument to that? Because that's difficult.
I've actually, Ben, please, I'm prepared. I've got a pros and cons list for Jack Nicklaus and Tiger Woods. I'll take over from here. Don't you worry.
I know some of the basics. I know some of the basics.
You can listen. You listen to this and you make a decision, because I genuinely put my hand on my heart and say I think you could go either way with this. So Jack Nicklaus, the case for the majors.
Yeah.
Jack Nicklaus won 18 major championships. That is the gold standard. No one's beaten it. And probably with the levels in today's game, it would be likely no one is ever going to beat it. There's too many good players nowadays.
Tiger's 3-back?
Yeah, Tiger 15.
Yeah.
So 19 runners-up as well to go with that. He was in the mix for decades. He won majors, so his longevity, he won majors across 24 years, 1962 to 1986. And his 1986 Masters win being one of the most iconic moments in golf history. His strength of mind, he was known for his composure, his course management, his clutch putting under pressure. He outfought his opponents, not just outplayed them. And he played in an era of change as well. So he played against, at the start of his career, the likes of Arnold Palmer.
Yeah, Gary Player.
And then by the end of, Gary Player, and by the end of his career, Tom Watson, Lee Trevino, fantastic players. But he consistently came up top. Obviously, Seve Ballesteros as well. Consistently coming out on top against these players that spanned eras. The case against him, so he didn't face the global depth of talent like Tiger did. So
that's a good point.
Golf has become, golf was very much Britain a little bit, Australia and South Africa a little bit, obviously, certain players. But in America, it was very heavily American. You didn't get the European players playing at quite the same level. You didn't get the Asian players and African players and players from all over the world that obviously exist in today's game. Also fitness and athleticism weren't quite as big a deal there. You obviously had people like Gary Player who were incredibly fit, and you had other players who were less so. It wasn't quite the same as it is now. So that's the case for and against the Golden Bear. Tiger Woods, the case for dominance. So Tiger changed the game. At his peak, no one was close to him. He's the only player ever to have held all 4 majors at the same time. In the year 2000, he won 4 in a row. Not in the same year, but across 2 years, he won 4 in a row.
Is that the Tiger Slam?
So he was a holder. The Tiger Slam, yeah. He was a holder of all 4 at one time. He won the 2000 US Open by 15 shots, and as we've mentioned, he won the 1997 Masters by 12 shots. He wasn't winning. He was obliterating people at that point. He's tied for the most tour wins ever, 82. He obviously, there is a small chance that he might come and beat that. He's obviously had a lot of injuries, and he's got 15 majors. So he had a legitimate shot at beating Nicklaus's 18 before injuries and certain life choices derailed him somewhat. And obviously, he didn't just dominate the sport.
A flawed genius.
Yeah. Transcendence. He didn't just dominate, he brought golf to the masses. He's the reason prize money exploded. He's the reason kids of all backgrounds took up golf. There's going to be people who are in the PGA Tour now who are only in the PGA Tour because they saw Tiger Woods on golf. Tiger Woods playing golf on TV age 10 when they were 1997, 2005, that kind of time, and fell in love with the sport because of Tiger. And he also, the strength of the field, he faced a globalized, ultra competitive, a bunch of athletes, not just golfers, they're proper athletes by the time he was playing. And everyone raised their game to try and beat him, and technology kept improving to try and match him. And most at that point failed. Now, the case against him, did he make the most of his talent, you could say? He's obviously had injuries. You could argue whether or not that's his fault. He's had consistency issues later in his career. And, of course, what happened in 2009, 2010. Infidelity issues. Being on the front page of the newspaper, not the back pages. it all is things you can hold against him.
I was going to ask. Sorry to interrupt, but
go ahead.
To what extent would you place an emphasis or a weight on the personal lives? Because Jack Nicklaus is undoubtedly a really nice guy. And I'm not saying Tiger's not a nice guy, but Tiger's obviously had his fair share of controversy. Is that relevant?
It depends. I mean, if your argument is who is the most talented, maybe not. If the argument is who is the overall best, maybe it is. Because if Tiger had been in a better place in his actions and his mental state and his decisions he made in 2009, 2010 kind of time, would he have gone on to win majors in 2009, 2010, 2011? And would he be... I mean, if he had done, there'd be no debate, I don't think. I think it would be Tiger all the way. I think the fact that there is a debate is on account of that plus injuries. I mean, can he take injuries into account? Don't know. Yeah, it's why it's a debate. It's fun.
Yeah, it is fun.
And you can also say about Tiger, he never really dominated the game because of injuries, because of obviously the things we've mentioned. He never dominated the game into his 40s like Nicklaus did. Although, of course, he did win the 2019 Masters when he was 43, 42, 43 at that point.
Oh.
So, yeah, there you go. So if your measures longevity, major championships, it's probably Jack. If it's dominance, cultural impact, peak performance, it's probably Tiger.
I think.
So what do you reckon?
Yeah.
You make the decision, Ben.
Yeah, and I'm on authority on this stuff. And what I say is clearly therefore binding on everyone. So yeah, no pressure. Such is the significance of my opinion. I think it's Tiger on balance.
I knew you were going to say that.
Yeah, I know.
It's hard to remove yourself from
the modernization of the game, the professionalization of the game, the money and the increased scrutiny and pressure that comes with that. The extracurricular, and I don't mean his personal circumstances. I mean, brand awareness, sponsorship, obligations, all of that stuff, carrying that burden, plus the fact that he's gone past the guys from the bygone era on PGA wins. He's in touching distance on the slams, if not, beyond all of them except one. Yeah, he won more. Like you say, internationalization of the game, and he's an athlete. And I'm not saying that the guys in the 60s, 70s, and perhaps even 80s weren't athletes per se, but there's a requirement now. I mean, you only have to look at Full Swing or something. These dudes are they can bench football players, American football players, or I mean, I'm obviously being slightly hyperbolic there, but they're in the gym, they're smashing balls further than anyone's hit before, but they've still retained that precision and that accuracy and that finesse that's required in the short game. I think when you put it in that context and who you have to beat in order to rack up those wins, it's probably got to be Tiger. And that's not to diminish the fact that Jack Nicklaus is, we read out his stats in his career, some of his career highlights earlier.
He's incredible.
Yeah. To say Tiger's the best is not to say that Jack Nicklaus isn't nearly the very best. Do you know what I mean? It's not. Yeah, the debate doesn't need to descend into the likes that you see in football, where it's you're great or shit.
I mean, can we just make that sort of the mantra of this podcast?
Exactly.
Please.
But yeah, anyway, I don't want to bleat on about it. I'd say Tiger. Those are the reasons.
I would agree with you. I think obviously this is completely subjective, but I think if you were to pluck one and put it in the other era, notwithstanding the fact that the certain issues would derive from placing Tiger into 1962, but I think if you were to do that, I think Tiger dominates more and I think Nicklaus dominates less, simply because of the competition. Not because either of them are going to be even worse players in those tiers, and perhaps obviously with the better conditioning and better equipment, Nicklaus could have been as good, raised his game, and so maybe that wouldn't be the case. But
it's an immeasurable variable, isn't it?
It is an immeasurable. I mean, all of it's immeasurable because their careers didn't overlap. But I will tell you actually one thing, and this is going slightly off topic. The some of the most legendary achievements of Nicklaus's career. The 1978 Open Championship at St Andrews, which completed his third time over Grand Slam. So that was his third Open Championship. He already won the other three at least 3 times, so that was his third. Only him and Tiger have done 3 times over all the major championships. That was how he sealed it. So that tournament there, as well as Seve winning in 1983, as well as Jack Nicklaus winning in 1986, and then Tiger Woods winning in 1997, all of those events had the same runner-up in them. So if you're talking about bridging the eras, a man named Tom Kite was runners-up in all of those tournaments. Somewhat always a bridesmaid, but he was... I just want to talk about him quickly because I really like this guy. He wasn't flashy, he was methodical, analytical, probably even arguably geeky. He was one of the first players to embrace sort of psychology in golf. He wore glasses when he was playing it. He basically popularized the use of an extra wedge, a lob wedge. So he sort of tried new things out. And it was 1992, bear in mind, obviously 1978 when he was playing Nicklaus, runner-up there. Runner-up in a lot of events after that. 1992, he won his one and only major championship in the wind and the rain at the US Open at Pebble Beach. The field collapsing around him.
To win it, man.
Yeah, I know. He stayed steady. He stayed smart. He stayed unflappable. Hallmarks of his career. It was a gritty, well overdue reward for a career that was built on consistency. He won $9 million in his career, which was still a big total at that point, before Tiger came along, and was a respected Ryder Cup player and the Ryder Cup captain as well. Oh. And he was inducted into the World Golf Hall of Fame. So, yes, he wore the bridesmaid dress maybe one too many times, but he eventually got his walk down the aisle. So, there we go. I just want to end by mentioning him just because he tickled my fancy. He is someone who I admire.
That's a nice way to end it, man. Like, it's not all about the guys that get the green jacket. It's, people like Tom Kite as well.
They all play a part in the story, and Tom Kite played plenty of parts because he was there for all of those big majors, all those big events in these legends' lives. Jack Nicklaus, Tiger Woods, and Seve as well.
Nice. Yeah. Well, okay, let's leave the Masters there. Starts this weekend, obviously, or this Thursday. Rather. Yeah.
Played through to Wednesday with the par 3 contest.
True. Yeah. And I think if you are interested in watching it, if you stuck it out this long, and you are interested in watching it, you can find it on Sky here in the UK. If you have Sky Sports, the BBC will be showing highlights as well, but it will also be on their website. 5 Live, Ireland is Sky, Canada is CTV, which I'm not familiar with, so forgive me. And then the US is, I think, going to be CBS and ESPN.
It's usually CBS, I think.
Yeah, they might both have rights. I don't know. But have a look. Yeah, you guys in America will know better than us if you are even with us and listening. Cool.
Well, we've had a few listeners from different parts of the world already, which is nice. So thank you if you have been listening.
Yeah.
It is hugely appreciated, and I hope you're enjoying. So thank you very much.
And where are we going for episode 3, Jack?
Not far, especially for me. Just down the road for me. We are in Sheffield next week for the World Snooker Championship.
Nice.
So for anyone who's not aware of snooker, which I think will be, it's certainly a British-centric sport, we will teach you about it, and we will teach you about the history of this event. And there's one thing you can say about snooker: it's never short of a character.
Very true. All right. Well, let's leave it there, and we'll join again at the World Snooker Champs.
Perfect. Well, I'll see you there.
Bye, Jack.
Bye, Ben. Once again, thank you for listening. This was the Sporting Almanac podcast. If you enjoyed us, give us a like, a subscribe, or a rating at wherever you get your podcasts from. Or more importantly, tell your friends. There's no better advertising than word of mouth. Our theme tune is Oh Yeah by Harmonia Productions. You can find us on Blue Sky at The Sporting Almanac, or drop us an email at thesportingalmanacpodcast@gmail.com. We're always up for episode suggestions or hearing any cool stories you've got. We'll be back next week, and until then, stay curious. Sport is nothing without the stories that make it. Goodbye.